Hi folks, welcome to this quick rundown on the change list for Cancha version 2.5. I'm not going to go into any detail on any of the particular new features. I'm going to try to get out new videos for each one of them individually. Today's talk is just going to be going through in rapid succession all the changes that we've made so people can be aware. The first thing is up here in the menu, so things that used to be scattered throughout Cancha with different icons. These icons used to be in different parts of Cancha. Now they're all up here in the tools menu, so you can come here, tools, export, and you got export all the tables, you can export the sample table, export the consolidated table or the equidistant table up there in the menu. There's also templates for request for information, which is useful for people getting into Geomet and needing to ask for data for do the Geomet from third parties, and a template for people who want to get their metallurgical information into shape for Cancha. There's a template in Excel for that. There's also buttons here for optimizing the database and clearing the tables as well. So if Cancha's making some mistakes, maybe there's a power outage and while it was working and for whatever reason the GMT file is not working correctly, you can clear the tables here and then reconsolidate, and you'll have a reinterpretation of the raw data again. So here in the 3D area, there's a new PDF export, 3D PDF export. So for people who don't have Cancha and you want to be able to share with them your sample selection and let them see it in 3D and rotate it around and things like that, you can actually do that via printing a 3D PDF if they have the right software to open it, which is just 3D compatible PDF viewer. Bounds is new, so if you come into the bounds, you'll notice that on the right hand side here there's now a bounds window. You can edit the bounds by numerically, editing them like this, or you can just go have a click here on either block model, drilling, or PID or something like that, a DXF, and it'll change the bounds to those. Or if you've got one here, so say for example you want to say, okay, just give me the north end of the pit, I can hit OK. Now I've got the north as an option, so I can go back and forth between the bounds and then open them up, and I can just see that part of it. Okay, so that's the new bounds window, which help people get around. In sections, we've changed it now so that in sections there's now rotating. So previously if you came into the 2D view, sorry, weird going on it. So previously you could step through the deposit in say 25-meter increments and step through it, and you can see here in the section view where the line was. But now you can also rotate, and it rotates 15 degrees every time you click on it around the center that's been focused. So if you were to sample, select a certain sample, it'll center on that sample, and then you can rotate around that sample. Okay, thanks for the user that recommended to implement that. Next thing is that there's a new focus window. You'll notice here on the right hand side of the screen this new focus window appeared, and you can move these windows around. All the ones on the right hand side of the screen, you can move them around and combine them and put them on top of each other just by moving your mouse around, and it goes blue and you let it go, and there it is, right? So this focus window, I just come out of the section and just to maybe turn off the block model. I can see these met samples in here. I can click on one. It says that's sample number 3, and the focus window tells me it's sample 3, what the drill hole, the interval was, a bit of information about it. As we go, this is going to get, you're going to be able to configure this to have more information. Right now, this is all the information you get for a met sample. But if, for example, we go to drill holes and we select holes number 7 and come to the focus tab, or we have that floating off on a separate window here on a separate monitor, you'll see that it tells me all the information there about drill hole number 7. And if I want to lose focus, because you can see when it's focused, it's got this selected like this in 3D, just hit the red block and away she goes. So that's the focus window. We're excited about that because it's going to make a way of examining data more consistent throughout Cancha in the future. First step along the way. In analysis, we've got a new one called the multi-box plot. So here you can see I've got arsenic and silver selected as features, and I'm grouping them by alteration. Previously, that would have looked something like this. Now, when they're in this sort of view, it says this is arsenic, and it's in the alteration feature. Is this the silicified alteration? These are the values for it, argillic and purpuritic or something like that. So we get this new sort of way of labeling the box plots. But there's also this button here, separate plots, and if we do that, then you get them all on a separate plot with a separate scale. They all have the same scales, but you can see them that way. So that's new. Next one would be the resource table with the metal distribution. So previously you used to see this sort of table where it splits up the tonnage and then gives you the number of samples per domain, and consequently the number of samples per million tons is calculated. Well, now we've done the same with the gold. So here, for example, we know gold is a feature, and so just put in here the metal name, that it being gold. I've said that it was grams per ton, and it's done the calculation for me, and it's ended up telling me how many tons, megagrams is the ton. So how many tons of gold are in each one of these domains, and how many tons of gold there are per metallurgical sample. So you can do that either for grams per ton or a percent if it's a other kind of metal. So this table is super useful for seeing how representative your samples are with respect to the pay metal, and here with respect to the ore that'll be treated. Okay, moving along quickly. You got the XY scatter. So there's this picked properties. There's always been here, but it hasn't worked so well. But if you click on it, anything here on an XY scatter, you can have these picked properties down at the bottom here, and you can see that I've added just by pulling them in. So I can just pull in information here, and you can see that I've got calcium on there now. So you add the different features to the list, and then as I click around the graph, you'll notice that this data changes. So I can see that this is sample 26, and that these are the values for it and the different features. So you can sort of do an investigation and sort of clicking around and seeing information about what the data points are. This will be the sort of thing that we'll have combined with focus in the future. All right, the next one would be the here in the feature list for numerical things. If I right click, I can click on descriptive statistics. This has been like this in the past, and you get this table of some basic statistics on that numerical feature. But now we've also got the histogram, and you can hide the outliers or not to get an idea about what the distribution is. There's a box plot that you can copy and paste, and then there's a QQ plot. So you can get those very quickly just by right-clicking on the feature list and asking for descriptive statistics. A new thing that we've got is that you'll notice that in logs, for example, let's just say, for example, we've got let's just bring in calcium, for example, and we'll notice that what happened there? Calcium, come on. There we go. Oh, this is the calcium. I don't know what it is. It's from the metallurgy. We need to go to the drilling, and we're bringing calcium. All right, here we go. So just take that off so it's not confusing. Like a lot of grades, might be very spiky, and it's very difficult to know how to take a metallurgical sample here because it's so erratic, and you're really not sure which area is high and low grade. So we've got two new methods that can help you identify high and low grade areas and to get a better smoothing. One of them is called smoothing, and the other one's called segmenting. So you can right click on it on a feature and say create smooth, and at the same time I'll go ahead and do create segment as well. Now they're different algorithms with different mathematics. Both of them don't have a simple name because well, we gave them a simple name, but there's not like a single mathematical procedure behind them. A little bit more involved, but if we go ahead and add that to the so we have to reconsolidate. So it's done the calculation quite quickly, and we can add these now to the strip log, and we can see that in this area here, the segmenting has identified that this area has a high grade of calcium than this area, and in this area in particular, we see a 4.5, whereas this one here was only 3.5. So it's kind of the smoothing in this case actually was able to identify a very high grade area. So smoothing works on low, medium, and high. whereas segmenting is looking for more sort of continuous runs of grades. So it's looking kind of like, over a continuous run, how does a grade change and be clustered that way. The clustering, the k-means clustering that we use to color the original, the drilling, it doesn't take continuity into consideration at all. Whereas the segmenting, the smoothing does take continuity into consideration, but in different ways. So now we can see, if we look in different drill holes, we can see a possible way that we could identify areas that might be interesting for metallurgical sampling without having to deal with this erratic data to understand it properly. So that's segmenting and smooth. In the features, we've got this one here. There's a mineral calculator. This is Bill Wilton's procedure that he published in this paper here. If you just click on that, it'll take you to the website and you can view it for yourself and understand how it works. But basically here you might put, for example, pyrite, and it'll give you a list of minerals. You just go ahead and hit apply. And then we might go, for example, hematite. Just start typing and choose that. So we've got iron sulfide and iron oxide here. Basically, if we just go ahead and put iron there as an assay, we've got sulfur as well. That's kind of the minimum information we need. We don't have an oxygen assay. We just leave that with none. Hit apply, and then hit the reconsolidate orange button on the top right hand side again. And now you can see on the same table we've got hematite and pyrite added as new features. So if we come to logs, and I'll just get rid of some of these things, and we've got the iron and the sulfur. Now I can bring in the hematite and the pyrite, and you'll see that it's only assigning pyrite where it's got the high sulfur. The rest of it's assuming that all the iron must be hematite. And if we go to a hole with more sulfide, you'll notice that, let's get rid of this focus. So you'll notice that, here it's more likely to be pyrite because it's got the higher sulfur. So it does just mineral calculations, and they're there. It adds it to the same thing as the assays that you've put into them. So it's early stages of this. I think we'll have to improve on the interface and give more flexibility on mineral compositions and stuff in future. But for the time being, very useful to have mineral composition instead of assays in your geomet predictions. The next thing is that the graph on the bottom left-hand corner, you'll notice we've always had this with the clustering and the box plot and whatnot, but now we've added the count, minimum, maximum, and mean for the feature, so you can sort of see how much data is there. So it's kind of a nice little addition. Pretty big change in samples. In samples now, if I wanted to choose a new run of samples and I wanted to base it on the usual sort of things, we could maybe put on rock type. Now, previously you would create, when you did a selection of samples, you would create a temporary sample selection run, and that would sort of exist as a temporary thing. Well, now you've actually got to name the phase, directly. So let's just say, for example, phase 4, and say I need to have 35 samples. So you're actually naming the phase before you get started. It's not going to create any temporary phases. It's actually just going to create a new phase with these samples in it that you've got. Sample length, before you just have to say what sample length you needed. Now there's a handy little calculator. So say, for example, you were going to use quarter core PQ, and you needed 60 kilos a sample for your maybe a little higher, it's sort of 35 kilos or something like that. It's going to say I'm going to need 10 meters for each of the samples in order to get there. Hit apply. It gives 10 there for us automatically. We're going to want to make it in pit, and now the other thing that we've got is that you can make it complementary to previous phases. So it's going to be representative of the focus case, which is in pit, but you can say also include the samples I already have in phase 1 when you're selecting phase 4 in order to make the sum of phase 1, let's just say phase 1, phase 2, and phase 4 should be representative of the focus case. Of course, you say that, which holes you want to take them from. Now these hole selections are sticky, so you don't have to add them again between every sample run. So that's nice, not have to go through the list clicking every time. And then just hit apply. So what happens now is that it's going to take those 35 samples, but you'll notice now it doesn't make an intermediary. It doesn't make it like a temporary phase. It goes straight away, and we've got these 35 samples for phase 4. We've got the sample representativity report that we've always had, but phase 4 already exists in the sample list. So for example, we go to 3D and we click on phase, well, let's just load up something in there that we can, usually a phase or something like that is a good feature to look at data. So here we can see the phases 1, 2, and 4. And if I click on phase 1, it'll show me all the phase 1 samples, phase 2, and now phase 4. There they are. Okay. Same thing in logs. Obviously, I can click on any one of these samples and it'll take me to the sample there. But that's been chosen for phase 4. And so if you did want to edit it, you could right click and edit. And if you just want to delete the whole lot, you can right click and say delete, and then you get rid of that phase. Okay, that's new ways, and hopefully a lot easier way of choosing metallurgical samples. Composites now have their own list here on the right. You'll notice that previously you would come to the samples area and there was a button here for composites and samples. You'd have to click between them, and that wasn't very intuitive. So now we've got samples, we've got composites, we've got drill holes and whatnot as different tabs. So if we're in 3D, we can click on a composite, phase on a composite, and it'll show us the samples that are in those composites right there. Well, the ones that are in pit anyway. All right. That's the composite tab. That's new. Targets. So we've just got some improved headers and targets. I guess we'll just have to run a new one. I've been changing stuff. As soon as you change things, you have to run the targets again. So go ahead and hit run, and just better labels. So on the different domains, we've got this headings now. That way it says here we can say this is predicting gold recovery in the global domain. Whereas, for example, if we come in here to the rock types and maybe come in here on the basalt one, we can see now we've got this predicting gold recovery in the domain rock type basalt. So a bit more information there, hopefully more useful. And filters no longer have checkboxes on the drilling block model and samples, so you just turn off on and off just the filter case, and then it activates all that. You don't have to be clicking on a whole bunch of checkboxes. That's it for 2.5. So you'll notice also that there's a lot of performance improvements, bug fixes, hopefully small usability improvements that I won't get into, but those are the big ones. And love to hear from the users and find out if you like these, or how you think we can improve it further. Thanks very much.